Hey everyone, today I'm going to show you guys how you can do simple shading and coloring of your drawings in Photoshop. It's really important you saw the previous lesson and you learned how to do basic line drawings. I'll kind of repeat everything I taught, but I would recommend watching that video first if you haven't already. Alright, let's jump right into the computer and I'm going to show you guys how you can color and shade your drawings in Photoshop. First, we should do a quick recap to make sure you guys are all on the same page. So last week we talked about the importance of making blank layers, and this week we're going to see why it's so important. But first things first, I'm going to make a blank layer to demonstrate that to you again by clicking on the little plus sign by the trash bin at the bottom right corner. And if I hit B for brush and draw over it, and then I decide I want to erase that, I can simply delete that layer by hitting delete on the keyboard, or you can actually physically drag it into the trash bin. Or if I hit E or click on the erase tool, what it will do, it will only erase what's on that layer. You guys see that? That's one of the important reasons we are going to make blank layers. So I'm gonna hit delete. So last week we talked about how if you hit B for brush, default my color to black by hitting D on the keyboard. If I hold shift down, instead of like trying to manually draw a straight line, if I hold shift, click once, hold shift, click again, it will create a straight line for me. What we're going to do today now is talk about how to color your line drawing. So it may be tempting, I'm using the zoom tool by the way, Z for zoom, right here. You can always right click and go fit on screen to go back. It may be really tempting for you guys to try to, let's pick a color first, to try to color in your robot manually without any assistance. So I'm gonna pick, I want like a fun color. Let's go with purple and hit OK. It can be so hard to color in the lines, and there's really no reason to do that anyway. Yes, I'm gonna hit Command C. You can make it easier, possibly by changing the hardness of your brush so that it kind of blends better. You guys can see that. But there's no point in doing that. There's much easier ways to color your drawing in Photoshop. So, the first one would be by using selections. So we have our blank layer, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a new tool, and that will be the magic wand. So the magic wand is W on your keyboard shortcut, but sometimes it might be an object selection tool, quick selection tool. Both of those are helpful, but not for what we're gonna do. We're gonna change it by holding when we click and going to magic wand tool. Once I do that, I can click between the lines. I do need to make a change. If it selects everything, then you need to hit Command C and click sample all layers, and then it will select in the lines. Now, when I hit B for brush, I can change my brush size to be a little larger. If you guys will see what will happen. It will only paint in the lines. Very cool. Especially, let's hit Command D, and what that will do is deselect your selection, because that's what the wand did. Now I can hit W again, click here, and start painting there. Now a quick shortcut to all this work is, if you know every area that will be purple ahead of time, you can hold shift and add to the selection. You see how it added this entire front of the robot's face as a selection? Now I hold shift again, I click the body, and let's say all that will be purple. He'll have different color pants. So B for brush, and now all I have to do is paint. And there's another way you can do this. Rather than just painting it, you can also go over here to what looks like a gradient, it's called a gradient, and change that to paint bucket tool. Hotkey for that is G. And then I can just click once and it will fill. And then Command D to deselect my selection. Now you don't even need to make selections sometimes. You can also, if it's confined by an area, meaning like the lines kind of, they're not porous. You see how the lines are continuous? This whole area is continuously enclosed. I have to turn all layers on like before. There we go. And now it will fill. Z for zoom, right click, fit on screen. And now we have our robot colored. Okay, I could continue to do that, change different colors for different body parts, etc. Maybe make the flames orange or red, but instead of that, what we're gonna do is I'm going to turn off this layer, meaning I can always turn it back on by clicking the eyeball, hitting a blank layer, and what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to show you guys how you can shade your robot, and there's a few ways you can shade it. The first one, this is where selections will probably be more handy. Remember to create a selection, W for magic wand, or click on the magic wand tool. I'm going to click here, here, because they're both going to get the same type of shading. Now I'm going to go back to my bucket, but when I go to the bucket, I'm changing it back to gradient. And it looks like the first gradient option is already kind of what I want. There are random gradients you guys can take a look at. I'm going to change this to large thumbnail to make it easier to see. And now we can pick different gradients. There's so many more than there used to be in Photoshop. So you can go funky, or you could go like a purplish to more of a pink and call it shading. It's up to you. But let's just first do a kind of normal one. The way the gradient works is we click in one area and we drag across in the direction we want the gradient to go. You don't need to go further if you want that full range of the gradient. So I'm going to click, let go, and now you can see it starts to look very natural. You can make your own gradients as well by clicking here on the box. And let's say I want to do a blue, and then I'm going to click here and do like a lighter blue. Hit OK, hit OK. Now one thing, again, I don't have a selection this time, so look at what will happen. It does it right over. So I'm gonna hit Command Z, W for the wand, Shift to add to the selection, G for gradient, click and drag. So that's how you can do gradients. But you can also get a little crazy. Let's finish the gradients of this robot. Let's actually make it all one color for now, just to keep this lesson shorter so you guys can focus on just creating beautiful artwork. So I hit W for wand, and I'm gonna do all the blue gradient areas on one layer. So I'm going to hit click here and hit Shift each time I want to add to my selection. Okay, I'll make the flames a different color. G for gradient, and this time I'm just gonna drag across the whole canvas. And it's subtle, but it has a little more depth now because the light did change. Okay, let's do the flames. Now let's try something a little more creative. W for wand, click, hold Shift and click. G for gradient, click up here to change the gradient type. Let's experiment. Iridescent, that looks cool. You know what? I think I'm gonna try it. It's my art, I can do whatever I want, so I'm gonna click here and do sort of this pastel looking colors for my flames because I can do whatever I want. And so I'm going to click and drag across, and there we go, those are the flames. Command D or Control D for Windows to deselect, and there's my robot. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit. All right, last thing that you guys might enjoy doing. He does need an eye, he does need to be finished, it's okay. We're gonna create another blank layer, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to my gradient. You guys know the hotkey by now, G for gradient. Make sure gradient tool is selected, not paint bucket. And I wanna go a little wild, I want something rainbow. We're gonna see what we have. Neutrals probably be like for shading. Oh, interesting. Pastels. We're just gonna take a look through all of them. Cloud, ooh, that's a new one for me. I'm usually using the older version of Photoshop. Should be a rainbow one. Let's go. I think I'm gonna have to make my own up. Let's do that. Let's see if there's any other. I don't really see what I'm looking for. I wanted something really crazy. And so let's just keep what we have, but we're gonna change each color by clicking on the box. And I'm gonna go a little bit more wild, just random colors, like more like a rainbow. And let's make the last color another red maybe. Okay, let's hit OK. Now this time I'm going to show you guys how you can actually change your gradient, because it doesn't have to be done in that shading way where it goes gradually in one direction to another color. As you guys can see to the right of my rainbows here, we have different types of gradients. If we hover on it, it tells you what it is. This one is a radial gradient. Here we have an angle gradient, etc. I'm going to go for the radial because I want to create an interesting background for my robot, and I'm going to drag across the entire canvas. Now here's the cool thing. It looks like the middle's not where I wanted it, so I'm going to hit Command Z. Let's try here. Now, let's try right in the middle. We can just experiment until we get what we're looking for. Now what we can do is simply move the robot layer to the top, and we are in business. Now I'm not entirely sure. Here's what happened. So it's good I make a mistake so we can learn from it. So notice the lines aren't there. That can happen. So what I need to do is I need to move all 3 of these layers, because we made new layers for each one. And I can do that by clicking one layer, holding Shift, and then clicking the last layer. Now I can drag it to the top, and here we go. Now my robot's in front of my cool background. And that's the lesson for today. A quick recap. For coloring, it's easier to create selections to stay in the lines. You can use a brush, B for brush. You can use a paint bucket tool where you just click and it will fill it in. You can use a gradient to add a level of depth to it. Remember, that's how we can shade our artwork and make it seem more lifelike. And lastly, we can use gradients to create interesting backgrounds, and we do that by making sure the background layer is below the robot layer. Alright guys, as always, thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.